There comes a moment in every life when you realize you're looking at the world through a window no one else seems to notice. You try to point toward it, quietly, gently, but others only see the wall. And in that space between what you know and what they cannot yet understand, a strange truth emerges. Insight is not only a gift, it is a test. For to see what others don't is to walk a narrow path, one lined with doubt, solitude, and the relentless pull to stay silent. Yet the world has never changed by those who blended into the comfort of the familiar. It has always been shaped by those who dared to trust their eyes, even when every voice around them said they were wrong. Today we explore that danger, that burden, and that extraordinary power of seeing differently. The gift and burden of perception. There is a curious paradox in the human experience. The more clearly you see, the more deeply you feel. And the more deeply you feel, the more profoundly you understand the world, not only in its beauty but in its hidden fractures. This is the silent weight carried by those who perceive differently. They notice the shift in a room before anyone else senses it. They recognize the tremor beneath someone's smile long before it cracks. They see patterns forming in the distance, while others are still convinced the horizon is stillness itself. To have such perception is to hold a lantern in a world that often prefers the dim comfort of shadows. It is not a gift that announces itself with glory. It arrives quietly, almost inconveniently, asking you to pay attention to what others overlook. From an early age, those with this heightened perception learn a truth that takes many years to accept. Wisdom is seldom met with applause. When you see a little more than others, your words tend to reach them a little less. People often resist what they are not yet prepared to understand. They may laugh it off, dismiss it, challenge it, or simply turn away. Not because your perception is flawed, but because it threatens the safety of their familiar world. And so, the journey begins. Not outward, but inward. You learn to listen more than you speak. You learn to observe without expecting recognition. You learn that sometimes the greatest acts of strength happen quietly, without any witness at all. The burden lies in the separation this creates. While others move with effortless belonging through the common rhythms of life, you find yourself pausing, questioning, sensing the undercurrents they do not feel. It can make you wonder whether something is wrong with you, but nothing is wrong. You simply operate on a frequency others haven't tuned into yet, and that can be isolating. The world often celebrates those who follow clear paths, not those who carve new ones. Yet those who carve are the ones who guide humanity forward, slowly, silently, unmistakably. Perception is not merely seeing what is visible, it is recognizing what is missing. It is the intuitive understanding that beneath every action there is a motive, beneath every motive there is a truth, and beneath every truth there is a story not yet told. The gift lies in this layered awareness. You can read people without them revealing a word. You can anticipate consequences long before they unfold. You can navigate life with an internal compass that rarely steers you wrong. But the burden is the same. You must often hold truths that others are not ready to accept. This is why the path of heightened perception is rarely smooth. You hesitate before speaking, knowing your insight might startle more than help. You question yourself in moments of doubt, wondering whether silence would be easier than honesty. You hold visions of possibilities that others cannot yet imagine. And sometimes you are forced to walk ahead alone, trusting that your steps will make sense to others only after time has done its work. But within this struggle lies a profound strength. Those who see beyond the surface develop resilience of spirit. They become comfortable with uncertainty, understanding that clarity often comes in fragments. They learn to trust their intuition, not as a magical force, but as a refined tool sharpened by careful observation and experience. And perhaps most importantly, they discover that seeing differently is not a curse, but a calling. It is a calling to illuminate rather than to dominate, to understand rather than to judge, to feel deeply rather than to detach. It is a calling to step into situations others avoid because they cannot decipher their complexity. It is a calling to guide others gently, never forcefully, toward truths they are ready to receive. It is a calling to turn perception into purpose. And despite the loneliness this journey may bring, there is great beauty within it. For once you embrace your gift fully, you begin to see the world not as a place of confusion, but as a vast landscape of interconnected stories, each one waiting for the eyes that can see beyond the obvious. You start to realize that your perception is not meant to isolate you. It is meant to elevate you. It becomes a bridge between the seen and the unseen, between the spoken and the unspoken, between who people are and who they might one day become. The truth is simple but profound. To see what others don't is to carry both light and shadow. It is to walk with wisdom that is not always welcome, but always necessary. It is to understand the world with a depth that can unsettle, inspire, or transform, sometimes all at once. But above all, it is to recognize that your perception is not a burden you bear alone. It is a contribution you offer quietly, courageously, and consistently to a world that cannot grow without such vision. Standing apart without standing above. There comes a point in life when you realize that seeing differently often means standing differently, not in superiority, not in pride, but in quiet distinction, a separation created not by arrogance, but by awareness. When you perceive the world through a deeper lens, you instinctively step back from the noise that consumes others. You watch before acting, think before reacting, and feel before speaking. This subtle distance, though unintentional, can make you appear detached, overly cautious, or even aloof. Yet the truth is far simpler. You stand apart because your mind cannot settle where it does not understand, and your heart cannot belong where it does not feel aligned. But standing apart does not mean standing above. It means finding the strength to honor your perspective without diminishing the perspectives of those around you. This distinction is crucial because the greatest danger of heightened perception is the temptation to believe that clearer vision equates to greater worth. It does not. Vision is not a ladder to climb over others. It is a lamp meant to illuminate your own path and, when invited, to assist others on theirs. The moment you begin to see your insight as a pedestal rather than a responsibility, you lose the very clarity that set you apart. True perception carries humility, for it understands a timeless truth. Everyone sees from where they stand, and someone else, somewhere, somehow, may be seeing what you do not. So standing apart becomes a quiet balance, a disciplined awareness that your perspective is valuable, but never absolute. The challenge arises in the way others interpret your position. People who do not see what you see may misunderstand your quietude as indifference, your patience as hesitation, your reflection as disengagement. They may question your motives or label your calm as distance. You feel the divide widening even when you never intended to create one. This can be painful, for no one enjoys being misunderstood. Yet those who hold deeper perception often walk through life with this silent ache, a longing to be known fully while navigating a world that often only sees partially. You learn to carry the discomfort with grace because you understand that comprehension cannot be forced. Understanding arrives in its own time, just as insight does. Standing apart also means you make choices that others may not comprehend. You decline opportunities others would jump at. You walk away from situations people believe you should accept. You remain committed to paths that seem uncertain from the outside. You feel compelled by instinct rather than pressured by expectation. And because your decisions are guided by internal clarity instead of external validation, they often appear unconventional. This is where the separation becomes most visible. Where others seek approval, you seek alignment. Where others chase comfort, you pursue truth. Where others follow the familiar, you explore the unknown. Such choices do not make you superior, they make you authentic. Yet authenticity comes with its own weight. There are moments when you question whether life would be easier if you simply conformed, if you let the currents carry you instead of resisting them. But something within you refuses, not out of defiance, but out of loyalty to what you feel is right. You know that betraying your perception would be betraying yourself, so you continue on, even when the path narrows. And in that persistence, you discover a profound lesson. Standing apart is often the price of staying true. But standing apart does not mean you must walk alone. The world is vast, and somewhere within it are those who see through similar eyes. People who understand without explanation. People who share your sensitivity to the subtle, your awareness of the unspoken, your ability to read the spaces between words. When you meet them, the separation that once felt heavy becomes a shared foundation, a quiet recognition that you are not strange, only selective. These connections are rare, but they are powerful. They remind you that perception is not a solitary gift. It is a bridge waiting to be matched. And even with those who do not share your deeper insight, standing apart can become a way of offering something meaningful. Your perspective allows you to hold calm in chaos, clarity in confusion, and patience in impatience. You can be the grounding presence others rely on when their own vision becomes clouded. Not because you know everything, but because you refuse to rush, to judge, or to react without understanding. In standing apart, you become a quiet anchor for others, not through superiority, but through steadiness. Ultimately, the heart of this topic lies in this truth. To see differently is not to be better. It is simply to be responsible for what you see. Standing apart means acknowledging your unique perspective while honoring the perspectives of others. It means walking with humility, not pride. It means offering insight without imposing it. It means recognizing your role not as a judge, but as a witness, someone who observes deeply, understands quietly, and acts thoughtfully. And in that balance, something remarkable happens. The separation that once felt like a burden becomes a strength. The distance becomes clarity. The silence becomes wisdom. You stand apart not to elevate yourself, but to remain true to yourself. And in doing so, you realize that the greatest power of perception is not in seeing what others don't. It is in choosing how you stand because of it. The weight of truth others can't yet bear. There is a particular heaviness carried by those who see truths before others are ready to acknowledge them. It is not a weight that announces itself loudly. It settles quietly on the shoulders, like a responsibility you never asked for but cannot ignore. Seeing beyond the surface means recognizing patterns long before they unfold, sensing dangers before they arrive, and understanding emotions people themselves have not yet named. This ability can feel like standing on a shoreline watching a distant storm forming, while everyone else sees nothing but calm water. You want to warn them, to help them prepare, but you know that speaking too soon can make you seem dramatic or misguided, and so you hold the truth gently, waiting for the moment when others can bear it. This is the quiet dilemma of deeper perception. The truth is clear to you, but clarity does not grant permission. People often resist what challenges their comfort or disrupts their expectations. Even when your intentions are rooted in care, your insight can feel intrusive to those who are unprepared. You learn quickly that timing matters. Just because you can see something does not mean others are ready to hear it, and so you carry truths privately, not out of secrecy, but out of respect for the pace at which others grow. This restraint is not weakness, it is wisdom. It is the understanding that insight without sensitivity becomes noise, and truth offered too early becomes a burden. But even wisdom has its weight. Holding back what you know can feel like holding your breath for far too long. You watch people make choices you know will hurt them. You see relationships heading toward fractures, decisions leading toward regret, or opportunities slowly slipping away. You want to reach out to save them from the pain ahead, but experience teaches you that some lessons cannot be intercepted. They must be lived, and so you remain present, offering gentle guidance where you can, silent support where you must. You learn to distinguish between the truth people need and the truth they can handle. It is not an easy distinction. It requires patience, compassion, and the strength to allow others to walk their own path, even when you can foresee its twists. This burden becomes even heavier when the truth you carry is personal, when it concerns your own future, your own heart, your own direction. Sometimes you sense that a chapter of your life is ending long before the world recognizes it. You feel the shift in your spirit, the subtle pull toward change, the quiet closing of one door and the slow opening of another, yet you hesitate, because acting on what you see often means stepping into the unknown before anyone else understands why. You risk being misunderstood or questioned. You risk being told that you're imagining things or rushing, and so you carry the truth alone for a while, walking with it until life finally reveals what you already knew. This is the emotional weight of foresight, not the pressure of being right, but the loneliness of recognizing what is real before it becomes visible to others. Still, within this weight lies a quiet strength. When you see truth early, you are granted time to prepare, to steady yourself, to understand the depth of what is unfolding. While others may be shaken when the truth finally emerges, you have already walked through the internal storm. You have made peace with it. You have allowed it to shape you rather than shatter you. In this sense, perception becomes a shield, not a burden. You can stand firm when others tremble, because you have already carried the weight in silence long before it became apparent. Yet even with strength, there is a longing for understanding. You wish at times that others could meet you at the depth where your thoughts reside. You wish they could see the connections you see, the warnings you sense, the possibilities that appear so clearly in your vision. But you also know that forcing truth on anyone, no matter how accurate or important, rarely brings clarity. Insight is not something that can be delivered, it must be discovered. And so you let people find their own truths in their own time, while you continue to carry yours with quiet integrity. The most profound realization, however, is this. Seeing what others don't is not about predicting outcomes or unveiling hidden realities. It is about understanding the human experience on a deeper level. It is the ability to sense emotion beneath expression, conflict beneath composure, hope beneath hesitation. It is the recognition that every person walks with untold stories, silent battles, and unseen dreams. Sometimes the truth you carry is not about the world at all. It is about the people in it. And that too is a weight, but it is a weight that teaches you compassion. In the end, the weight of truth is not meant to break you. It is meant to refine you. It teaches you when to speak and when to remain silent. It teaches you when to guide and when to let go. It teaches you the delicate balance between clarity and patience. And above all, it teaches you that truth is not a weapon. It is a responsibility. A responsibility carried quietly, humbly, and with the understanding that deep perception is not about seeing more than others. It is about caring enough to hold what you see with grace. Courage in the midst of doubt. Courage is often imagined as a loud, forceful declaration, a bold stand against fear, a dramatic leap into the unknown. But for those who see the world differently, courage is far quieter. It shows itself not in grand gestures, but in the silent moments when doubt surrounds you like a fog, and yet you continue moving forward. When you perceive what others overlook, your path is seldom paved with reassurance. More often, it is lined with uncertainty, opposition, and the subtle pressure to question yourself. And this is where true courage is born, not in certainty, but in persistence despite the absence of it. To see beyond the surface is to notice the fragile threads that hold situations together, the unstated motives guiding people's choices, and the approaching shifts that others believe are impossible. You sense the turning of tides before the waves begin to rise. But with this awareness comes a peculiar challenge. Others may not believe you. They may doubt your instincts, question your insights, or assume you are overthinking simply because they cannot see what you see. Their doubt becomes a mirror, reflecting your own questions back at you. You begin to wonder whether your intuition is leading you astray, whether your clarity is imagined, whether the truth you feel so deeply is merely a projection. And yet, somewhere within you, there remains a steady voice, a quiet assurance that refuses to be silenced. Courage is choosing to listen to that voice, even when it trembles. This kind of courage is not about proving anything to anyone. It is about honoring what you know, even when others cannot yet understand it. It is about holding firm to your convictions without demanding that anyone else adopt them. It is the courage to trust your inner compass when the world offers no confirmation. Many people wait for validation before acting, but those who see differently often move long before that validation arrives. They step into change not because they are fearless, but because they have learned that hesitation can be more costly than uncertainty. They understand that clarity sometimes appears only after you have taken the first step, not before, and so they walk forward while doubt echoes behind them. Courage in this sense is also about resilience, the ability to remain steady when your decisions are questioned, your motives misunderstood, or your foresight dismissed. It requires a quiet strength to continue standing in truth when others doubt its existence. You learn not to take resistance personally because you know it is not yourself people are resisting, but the unfamiliar. Humans naturally cling to what they understand, and anything that challenges their sense of stability can be met with skepticism. Recognizing this allows you to carry on without bitterness, without defensiveness, without the need to argue for your perspective. You realize that courage does not seek approval, it seeks alignment with what feels right. This form of courage often appears in the smallest moments. It is in the decision to speak up when silence would be easier. It is in the choice to walk away from what is comfortable but untrue. It is in the refusal to betray your values for the sake of acceptance. It is in the quiet persistence to keep going when there is no applause, no encouragement, no obvious reward. It is in the inner steadiness that whispers, "Stay true," even when every external voice says, "Give up." Those who can see beyond the obvious understand that the strongest battles are fought within, not around, and victory is not measured by recognition, but by the simple fact that you did not abandon yourself. Yet even with courage, there is vulnerability. Doubt never disappears entirely. It lingers in the background, asking questions that sometimes sting. But courage is not the absence of doubt. It is the willingness to act despite it. You gather your strength from the understanding that your vision, although unrecognized, is not meaningless. You remind yourself that many truths are dismissed before they are accepted. Many insights are misunderstood before they are valued. History, both personal and universal, has shown that clarity often arrives early to a few and late to the many, and courage is what bridges that distance. Over time, courage becomes less of a reaction and more of a way of being. You begin to trust the rhythm of your intuition, the quiet signals that guide your steps, the subtle shifts that others overlook. You stop seeking certainty and start seeking alignment. You stop fearing judgment and start respecting your own understanding. This does not make you inflexible, it makes you grounded. You can adapt without losing yourself, bend without breaking, listen without surrendering your truth. Courage transforms into calm, a deep, unwavering calm that cannot be shaken by the doubts of others. And then something remarkable happens. The world begins to catch up. People who once doubted your perspective start to see what you saw long ago. Situations unfold exactly as your instincts predicted. Paths you followed with uncertainty reveal themselves to be right all along, and in that moment, the courage you carried alone is finally understood. Not celebrated, perhaps, but recognized. And even if no one says it aloud, you feel the shift, the unspoken validation that your inner voice was not misguided. But by then, the recognition matters less, because courage has already reshaped you from within. In the end, courage in the midst of doubt is not about being fearless or unshakable. It is about trusting the truth that calls to you, even when it whispers. It is about moving forward with sincerity, humility, and resilience. It is about honoring the gift of perception without letting the doubt of others diminish it. And above all, it is about choosing again and again to walk the path only you can see. Because sometimes the greatest truths are revealed not to those who wait for certainty, but to those who move despite the lack of it. Transformation through understanding. Transformation rarely happens in an instant. It is not a sudden flash of revelation or a dramatic turning of fate. Instead, it unfolds quietly, layer by layer, through understanding. An understanding born from seeing the world with a depth others may overlook. When you perceive life in ways that go beyond the surface, you begin to notice patterns, connections, and truths that gradually shape you from within. This is the essence of transformation. It is not imposed upon you, it grows within you. And the more you understand, the more you evolve in ways that cannot be undone. Those who see differently often become aware of transformation long before others recognize it. You sense the beginning of change in subtle shifts, a conversation that feels different, a familiar place that suddenly feels too small, a thought that lingers longer than expected. While others may continue along their usual routines, you feel the early signs of transition, like a gentle vibration beneath the ground. This awareness can be unsettling at first, because transformation is not always comfortable. It asks you to release parts of yourself you once held close, to question habits that no longer align with your deeper understanding, and to step into spaces that may feel uncertain. Yet it is through this discomfort that your truest growth begins. Understanding becomes the compass guiding this transformation. When you see beyond the exterior of life, you start to recognize not only what is happening, but why it is happening. You understand the hidden causes behind conflicts, the unspoken needs behind someone's behaviors, the deeper meaning behind your your own emotions. This awareness allows you to respond to life with clarity rather than reaction. Instead of being swept away by confusion or impulsive choices, you engage from a place of intention. You learn that every challenge carries a lesson, every setback offers direction, and every ending creates space for a new beginning. This shift in perspective changes everything, not because the world becomes easier, but because you become wiser. As your understanding deepens, so does your empathy. You begin to see people not as they seem, but as they are beneath their layers of worry, fear, pride, or insecurity. You recognize the wounds they hide, the hopes they dare not speak, the battles they fight alone. This does not make you responsible for fixing them, but it does make you more compassionate. You respond with patience where others might respond with judgment. You offer calm where others might offer criticism. You find yourself capable of forgiveness, not because people always deserve it, but because you understand the pain that shaped them. Transformation through understanding softens your heart while strengthening your boundaries. It teaches you to care deeply without losing yourself. This inner transformation naturally extends outward. When you understand more, you choose differently. You let go of relationships that drain your energy because you recognize they are built on patterns that cannot sustain growth. You gravitate toward people who value honesty, depth, and sincerity because they reflect the person you are becoming. You pursue paths that align with your inner truth rather than those shaped by external expectations. Life becomes less about seeking approval and more about honoring authenticity. You no longer settle for what is familiar just because it is comfortable. You seek what is meaningful, even if it requires courage to reach for it. One of the most profound aspects of transformation is the way it reshapes your relationship with yourself. You begin to understand your own fears, desires, strengths, and vulnerabilities with greater clarity. You recognize your triggers and learn the stories behind them. You listen to your intuition rather than ignoring it. You stop criticizing yourself for being different and start appreciating the unique vision that sets you apart. This self-understanding becomes a source of stability in a world that often shifts unpredictably. You are no longer defined by circumstances or opinions. You are defined by the depth of your awareness. But transformation through understanding is not a destination. It is a continuum. The more you grow, the more there is to learn. The more you learn, the more compassion you gain. And the more compassion you gain, the more your presence begins to influence others. You become someone who can guide without controlling, uplift without forcing, and inspire without demanding recognition. Not because you set out to be a guide, but because your understanding naturally becomes light for those who are still finding their way. Your calm becomes a refuge, your clarity becomes a mirror, and your perspective becomes an invitation for others to see differently. Transformation also teaches you the value of patience. Patience with yourself, with others, and with life. You understand that not everyone evolves at the same pace, and not every situation changes when you want it to. Some truths take time to reveal themselves fully. Some lessons require repetition before they take root. Some people need space before they are ready to grow. When you understand this, frustration gives way to acceptance. You no longer force what is not ready or rush what is unfolding naturally. You learn to trust the process, even when it is slow. In the end, transformation through understanding is the final gift of seeing what others don't. It shows you that perception is not merely about noticing more, it is about evolving more. It shapes you into someone who moves through the world with clarity, compassion, and depth. Someone who can walk through uncertainty without losing balance, who can witness pain without losing hope, and who can embrace change without losing identity. And perhaps most importantly, it reveals that true transformation is not about becoming someone new. It is about becoming more fully yourself.